Welcome everyone to the ASPRS Mentors podcast. This week we have with us Evan Edwards.
Hi
First off,
there.
first off, are you okay with us recording this and sharing it on social media?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, awesome. All right, to start, I guess, can you please introduce yourself and provide a brief overview of your GIS background and experience?
Yeah, so my name's Evan Edwards. I'm originally from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, for those of you who know Canadian cities. Um, I wasn't originally going to go into GIS. I was originally going to be a paramedic, is what I was going to go to school for, which is completely unrelated. Um, but my oldest sister was actually in the GIS realm already, and she suggested, you like computers, you like all these sorts of like technology things. So, go look at it. And I wound up enrolling at Carleton University in Ottawa for their Geomatics program. Um, so I did 4 years of that. Luckily got a summer student job with Elections Canada. So that's our like electoral department in the federal government. Did that for a little while and wound up going to another thing for my practicum called Canadian Ice Services, which sounds like a icebox machine or something. It's actually another government department. So advantages of living in the kind of the capital of the country. Um, while I was there, I was looking into tracking ice islands in the Arctic using radar altimetry. Uh, Being a student, I don't think I knew what I was doing, but kind of muddled through the whole thing. And then I wound up going to the Department of National Defense in their kind of photogrammetry lab. And it sounds fancy, but it was just digitizing all day. Really kind of cool experiences back then doing kind of some of these summer student things and just seeing, you go to school, you do all this GIS learning stuff, but getting into the industry and seeing varying workflows and technologies and things you probably didn't even hear about in school. So, and after that, I decided I actually wanted to move out west in Canada. So I moved to Calgary, Alberta, which is kind of our oil capital of Canada. Um, and I was actually originally going to go to school in Calgary again for surveying, but kind of realized I could get a job. And I think I was out in the field holding a surveying pole and got an email saying, "You got the job." And I was like, dropped the pole. Pretty much left school that day. So, yeah, no, it was kind of an interesting journey. I started working at an engineering firm called Worley Parsons, um, and that was my introduction into the pipeline industry, which I'm currently in right now. So I was working on a pipeline project called Spectra West Coast Gas Connector, and then later on working on the Alaska LNG project, which kind of happened, kind of didn't happen, but was very interesting to work on an American project. And then after that, I've come to Trans Mountain, which is very large pipeline that's existed in Canada. It goes from Edmonton to Burnaby, which is down near Vancouver. Since 1953, it's existed. It's a very old pipeline, and we're expanding it right now. We're twinning the pipeline, and it's a big project in Canada. Um, Controversial project in Canada, but very exciting to be a part of it. And Yeah, I did leave for a little bit to work at a survey company as a GIS manager, and then I'm back to Trans Mountain again. So kind of my journey. It's a lot of jumping around.
Awesome. It's very interesting. So do you miss digitizing all day?
No. It's the other thing with that digitizing all day is because it's such a secure facility. There's no internet, there's no
Ah,
anything. You are just digitizing all day. So
you
I'd
can't.
offline load some podcasts on my phone and try to make it through the day. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, how has the GIS industry evolved over the years, and what emerging trends do you find the most exciting or impactful?
Well, I mean, I started in 2006, so that was my first day of school. We were using not even ArcMap, it would have been like ArcInfo, like the old version, and we were just getting into ArcMap. Um, and the technology back then, computer-wise, software-wise, was very, I think, basic. Um, you were a wizard if you could just create a map. That was like amazing. And even things like remote sensing, I think LiDAR was pretty in its infancy. Um, there was no AI, there was no, we were programming in Visual Basic. Things were very, very rudimentary. And, kind of after I graduated and then got into industry, quickly realizing I don't think I was prepared for the programming world and automation that was starting to come in. So really diving into that field and learning things like Python and FME for those of you who haven't heard of that software, go look it up. It's definitely something worth looking into. And then now, even in the last 5 years, seeing like AI, machine learning, um, all sorts of 3D, maps have gone from 2D to 3D. Maps have gone from, a paper to PDF to a web portal to a dashboard. You know, the rate of change is getting faster and faster all the time. So you pretty much have to keep learning. There's no way around that. And I think it's just even more now. 10 years ago, you'd be fine. If you knew Python, you were like, again, you were the wizard. But looking back on that, it's so rudimentary. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you've progressed from Visual Basic to Python.
To
Um,
FME, I don't even use Python anymore. It's all
so
like you go to Chat GPT now and you say, write me this script and it does it. It's almost it's kind of crazy, some of the things that have become obsolete even in the last year or two.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess touching on that, what are some essential skills and qualities that GIS professionals should possess to succeed nowadays in this field?
I mean, nowadays, I think, students coming out of school, you gotta definitely get into the automation side of things one way or another. There's always going to be room for, from the GIS perspective, that cartography skill set and the essentials, database stuff. But I mean, what will make you stand out is the programs you can create, the automation you can bring to an organization. Um, I know from my career, I've definitely gone from being a map maker to um, it's almost more like a map as a service. Everything is self-serve. It's not enough to just give your users like a PDF map and then, maybe you regenerate it in a year. They want tools that will be instantaneous. They want to do their own analysis. Like we're more facilitators of these things than anything now. So um, I think skill set wise, make sure you're learning programming. Even though Chat GPT can program for you, it's not going to do it 100%. I mean, it's just another tool, right? It's not you still need the human element to fill in the gaps and make sure it works. So
Is there any specific programming languages or technical skills that you recommend?
yeah, I mean, if you're in the Esri realm, Python all the way. I think Python as well for QGIS if you're in the open source realm. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt to learn things like .NET and kind of the more not GIS specific programming languages. It's good to just kind of have that well-rounded background. It's something I think I regret is not getting into it earlier and getting that like, I always kind of looked at myself as a GIS person first, but I think it's reversing now. It's becoming more, you should be a computer scientist, and then GIS is a tool you use. And I mean, that applies not just to GIS, but if you're in surveying or any kind of geomatics, I mean, technology is our tool, right? But we are the experts. So it's important that you know these skills. FME. Definitely learn FME. Learn Python first, do it the hard way, and then learn FME. They are a really great graphical user interface based kind of like data manipulation program. For my job, it's definitely made a difference in terms of turnaround for automating things. It used to take me a week to develop something, and I can go in FME and deliver something in like a day now. So all these new tools, they're getting faster and faster.
So what are some common challenges you face on a daily basis, and how do you overcome them?
Honestly, my role right now, I'm kind of on the getting closer to a data scientist or data engineer is what you'd probably call it. So obviously there's the spatial aspect of it, but my day-to-day, my challenges are all around data. So biggest challenge is connecting imperfect input data, which means, we have lots of engineers, technicians, stakeholders at Trans Mountain that, provide data to us to kind of clean up, fit into, a common data model and, put it in a way that presents to everybody so it's nice and clear, verified, it's traceable. That's the hardest thing. And I think a lot of students, a lot of new professionals, you guys are going to be diving into data as your priority. If you don't have good data, you don't have anything. The map won't matter. It's crucial to everything. So that's the biggest one day to day. I think the other thing is figuring out new ways to present data. The new tools such as Power BI, dashboards in ArcGIS. Those are new things that I think are still kind of in their infancy in a lot of ways. Like they are worked out as a platform, but making them work in a way that the user enjoys working with them is kind of the challenge. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, how important is continuous learning and professional development in the GIS world? And what resources or strategies do you recommend for staying up to date with the latest advancements?
Yeah, it's completely crucial. I myself regret not getting into organizations like ASPRS earlier. I know personally I've tried to get into ASET here in Alberta, which is our engineering organization, but also the GISP designation now that I've had enough years in the GIS world to kind of get into that organization. And then ASPRS, make sure you're attending conferences, make sure you're attending webinars. A lot of software companies right now are putting out completely free webinars, and that is with or without a company. Like if you're looking for work, you guys should be attending webinars to make sure you're learning the new technology. Like I say, you guys, everybody kind of gets out of school, you think you know everything, and then you start day one of your job and you realize, oh boy, I don't know anything. So I always used to joke, 1 year of school was like 2 weeks of work on the job. And in terms of learning, it's like exponential. So I think even when you get into your careers, challenge yourself to get outside of that comfort zone of day in, day out. And that might even just be as simple as like trying to find new technologies that would improve your workflows. Yeah, just keep learning. Don't stop.
I think you're answering a bunch of the other questions I have for you here, which is
Sorry.
great. um, So can you share a memorable GIS project you've worked on and highlight the challenges faced and the impact it had on the community or organization?
Yeah. So I think probably my biggest project to date has been actually here at Trans Mountain. I essentially took over a new position to kind of determine what data model we'd be using going forward, which is not a simple thing to do. I mean, within the pipeline world, so oil and gas pipelines, there's kind of pods, which is the big player for pipeline data models. And then there's Esri has the UPDM data model. And you guys can look those up. It'll be your challenge if you want to learn about pipeline data. I wound up going with UPDM, but a lot of it was kind of balancing. What's the advantages of each? Where's the technology going? What benefits the company itself, right? And then it was just kind of me. So how am I going to load this data model with at least 50 tables, like just a massive amount of data, and cleaning it up. So wound up going with the UPDM data model. There was some advantages in that purchasing that software, not even purchasing the data model, but you would actually get like software for managing the pipeline. And we're kind of, it's hard to see it back then, but the benefits are paying off like now. So this is about 5 years ago. And we're still building it and it's still being improved. And it's just this massive work in progress. But going from essentially, almost everyone being like, why are you trying to change this? To, oh my God, thank God you changed this. It's just, it feeds into everything now. It used to be just, we need to clean up our data. Now it's like, this database is everything. It's a model of the pipeline, it feeds into everything. So it's very interesting, very rewarding to see that kind of grow, become like my baby. Yeah.
So I guess adopting a new data model to your organization would have required interdisciplinary collaboration. So how do you approach that and what skills are crucial for effective teamwork?
Yeah. That's a hard one to nail down because it's all interpersonal skills, right? So I think putting it simply, be nice, try to be friendly with everybody and try to be accepting of different viewpoints when you're trying to approach these challenges. Especially in a bigger organization, you're going to have everybody kind of siloing their little piece of the pie. But you, as controllers of like a data model, you're kind of approaching it and saying like, listen, I can take this off your plate, or I'll manage it. You keep an eye on it, you govern it. And here's the benefits of what you'll get out of it. So you're kind of like a salesman in some ways, that you kind of have to sell these other parties on it. So, I mean, you got to be collaborative. You got to be knowledgeable, because people will ask you questions. You can't just go into a meeting and everybody, just take you at face value. They're definitely going to challenge everything. So this is where that continual learning comes in too. Is it's not enough to, go Google something after a meeting. Sometimes you have to go into a meeting and know what you're talking about, right? So
Yeah, that kind of gives
yeah,
us ideas for expanding on these webinars. Maybe have a focus on soft skills and communication would be a good
yeah.
future topic.
The hard one to nail down, right? Because everybody has a different personality, and
Yeah.
but it comes down to just being friendly. It's just work, try to work as best as you can with everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. So GIS applications can have significant social and ethical implications. How do you approach ethical considerations in your GIS work, especially concerning data privacy and community impact?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for us here, especially data privacy. Obviously, you need to work with your various groups, but also, the IT department is going to have a huge component in things like privacy, security. Um, yeah. And then there's always going to be, maybe not every organization has it, but there's also that legal standpoint. There's, like you say, the ethical standpoint of like, you want your data to be the truth. You can't necessarily just put anything out there. So a big component of my career has been, establishing good quality control, quality assurance programs, and then holding yourself and your team accountable to that. And so, it's hard to grasp that, I think, when you're starting out in GIS, geomatics. It's something that you learn quickly because it is very serious, right? So, um, that being said, I think it seems scary, as with those things that are new and are hard, a new skill to learn. But I think I like to live life and live my career by, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like these are things that are crucial to a career. Um, you might feel like you're being annoying to say you're more senior folks on your team, but it is pretty important. And I still do that. 15 years later, I think I ask more questions than most people, but it's necessary. And yeah, yeah,
For for a second there, I thought you were going to say you live your life a quarter mile at a time.
or that. Yeah, take it slow.
Um, so what do you envision for the future of GIS, especially in terms of its integration with emerging technologies like AI, Internet
Yeah,
of Things, or BIM integration?
that question could go a million ways. I mean, the thing is, I think that anybody who tells you they know exactly how it's going to go doesn't have a clue, because I think there's patterns of the way it's going to go, but something like Chat GPT, like those massive language libraries, that kind of came out of not nowhere, but I don't think anybody was ready for it. And so I think the future will be, as with everything that changes in, say, GIS, it's going to be a new tool that you augment your workflows with. So it'll make you faster, it'll make you more efficient. And, the thing is, being in the field we're in, something like, Internet of Things or more better, more robust sensors giving us bigger, better data. Um, it doesn't necessarily mean that our jobs are easier. I think we get we get challenged more, and we veer closer and closer to data science and IT and these things that aren't just making a map or surveying or flying a drone. Like it's more than that. So I think in the future we're going to see, we have all these cars out there that are collecting LiDAR data, they're collecting radar data that's accurate. I could see companies starting to sell that as like data bundles. And then now we have survey data of our streets, like massive amounts of that. And then we have to process that, and we can build an entire city model from that. It changes do you need a surveyor then if that data exists? So the data is just becoming more and more available. And it's the same thing with, say, my job, like watching a webinar a couple of weeks ago on FME. The latest version now has like built-in Chat GPT. So when you go to build like if you guys know, like a regex query, you don't even write the regex query anymore. You go like, I want every word that starts with Q, and that you write that out in plain English, and it makes the query for you. So, I mean, that might save you 20 minutes right there, right? Googling or whatever. It's no different than the internet coming along. It just gave us another tool to kind of expand our horizons and our capabilities. So I don't know. It's gonna be whatever it is. It's gonna be both easier and harder at the same time because it's like we have more to do, but you can do it a bit faster. So yeah, never seems to really actually get that much easier.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. So is there anything else you want to share with our audience? Any final thoughts or words of inspiration for aspiring GIS professionals?
Yeah, I mean, going back to like what I was saying, it's potentially scary. You're entering the job market. You don't know where you're going, what you're doing. But I think, the key things are, work with your teams, ask questions, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like that's how you learn. It might suck in the beginning if you do, and you might feel like you're just not getting anywhere. But the people who take chances and make those mistakes, they learn faster than people who don't take those chances. And I think, take care of yourself in your career too. Like make sure you're balancing your work life, and obviously you're gung ho, you're getting into your careers, but don't forget to, take time for yourself, take time to learn, take time to try new things, right? So I find that, oh, and another big one, in your career, you're going to come across opportunities that you might be afraid to jump into. Might seem outside your skill set, might seem too complicated. Those are the changes that make your career, though. At least for myself, every time I've been like, I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna do it though. Those were my career defining moments because it wasn't like, you know what, I got this government job and I'm gonna keep digitizing until I'm 50. I probably could have done that, but I don't think I'd want to keep doing that. So, it's been the ones where it's like, do you want to be a team lead? Yeah, sure, let's try it. I don't know anything about it, but and you figure it out. So don't be afraid of those things, I think is the biggest thing. Yeah.
Awesome. So if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to look me up, or you can send an email to me at evan.a.edwards@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah,
I have a
thanks.
question.
Sure. Yeah.
And if Greg or Jordan also have questions, you're more than welcome. So
Sure.
my question is, for those young people who just graduated, they don't have even a LinkedIn account. What's your
Yeah.
advice and why it is important to create their own brand?
Yeah. That's a
And
good
if
question.
I will put you as a recruiter or as somebody who's hiring, what's your
Yeah.
approach?
I would say don't uh, ignore those things. Like LinkedIn is a part of our lives, right? It's your resume on the internet. And I would take it a step further. Every time I've been in the recruiting position and looking at um, potential candidates, the things that stand out to me are the candidates who take the time to create, say, a geo resume, and they make their own website. They show all their work they've done, kind of make like a portfolio, right? Um, you essentially are selling yourself when you come into the industry, which is a really weird, awkward thing to do. Nobody likes to do it. Like it feels weird, but you kind of have to because nobody knows who you are when you're coming in, right? So, um, if you want to stand out, take the time, take a weekend, make a LinkedIn account, really make a nice resume, and really, if you can, and you want to, again, try something new, make yourself a website and put some work up there, and that's something you can link to, and I think be proud of, right? So, yeah, that's what I would
Thank
do.
you.
Excellent. Is there any other live questions? I know I put in the chat there. No.
Oh, I should keep an eye on the chat.
Well, I was the only one in there, so you're good.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess thank you for doing this, and thanks for helping out our community. And
Yeah, no problem.
it's great having you.
Thank you for the invite. I really had fun doing this.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.